Good afternoon. Today's regular meeting of the Shasta County Elections Commission is now called to order. It is Monday, September 9th, and it is 2 p.m. The Commission will provide members of the public with a public comment open time period where the public may address the Commission on any item not listed on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of this Commission. Members of the public may also comment on any item on the consent calendar or the regular calendar before or during the Commission's consideration of that item. Commission action or discussion cannot be taken on non-agendized matters, but the Commission may briefly respond to statements or questions. We encourage everyone to fill out a speaker request form and submit it to the clerk of the board. Forms are located at the back of the room in those little cubbies. The meeting will adjourn by 5 p.m. With that, we will begin with the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
If we could please stand for the invocation. Lord, we come to you now, and we're so grateful for the opportunity and the freedom that we share in this county, in this country. And Lord, we just ask for your direction in this meeting. We welcome your presence here. We ask for wisdom and guidance how to navigate through this landmine. And we're grateful for all the people that desire to speak up. We ask that our words would be seasoned with salt to be able to provide the efficiency that we need to be able to accomplish things in this county. And we give you glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Salute for the pledge.
Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're going to go into public comment, and I've got Steve Woodrum.
Is it still 3 minutes or 2?
It's still 3 minutes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In the election debates, Dr. Hobbs commands an influential voice. But how does she use her voice? Let's reconsider her court challenge on the race for supervisor. She said the election was flawed and the results invalid. Now, if true, all 4 candidates could have been harmed by these improprieties. The only honest solution would have been a new, perfectly fair election with all 4 candidates. Dr. Hobbs and her supporters did not seek this remedy. Instead, she wanted another election between just herself and Long. She cherry-picked the results of the first election. On one hand, she said we could not trust that Long won. On the other hand, she said we could trust that she finished second. She denied somehow the rights of the 2 other candidates to participate in this proposed fair election. That meant that she would face less competition in this new election that she falsely called a runoff. She sought a remedy that was dishonest and self-serving. But all of this is moot because she and her supporters were not able to prove that the election was flawed. That's in the past. But her attempted dishonesty remains. I bring it up today to the Commission and to the public. When it comes to election matters, Dr. Hobbs is not trustworthy.
Thank you, sir. Just for future reference, anything related to Dr. Hobbs is not within the Commission's jurisdiction, so it's not really something.
But it was a recent.
Yeah, but nothing
that
in
challenged.
Jurisdiction over.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
But you are the election commission.
All right, Christian.
this commission has a problem. This commission is a puppet created by Patrick Jones and the JCK cartel, consisting of JCK cartel members, except for one. Welcome, Brad. But basically, this commission is just a quasi-official agency that has acquired some very limited power through its sponsoring agency, which is the Shasta County Board of Supervisors. Again, this commission's power solely consists of making suggestions to the board. That's it, period. That said, everybody in this room, I would hope, feels that we have as individuals the right to speak. That's the First Amendment right there. However, the problem is that this body is not acting on the behalf of an individual, like the speakers before you today, but is acting on the behalf of Shasta County government. And thus, this commission or committee or whatever it is responsible for the persistent fraud proven time after time in local and national courts, even the Supreme Court, even here in this court, that is perpetrated by fraud, by this commission persistent record of fraud. And in fact, it's been proven to be nothing but misinformation and lies. And so therefore, this commission is responsible for the advocacy, the continual advocacy of suggesting that the county break laws over and over. Laws of the state of California, by the way. We're not living in the state of Jefferson. And continuously advocating that somehow all these lies get superimposed onto the backs of Shasta County government. You're committing fraud. That's basically it. Persistent fraud. And council, I would ask, how long of a track record of persistent fraud do you have to develop before you can get taken to court for fraud and for advocacy of breaking the state of California laws? This commission needs to disband immediately. It's wasteful. It's based on lies and propaganda.
Thank you. Randy?
Hello. There's been considerable time and expense put toward the notion that there's voter fraud that's taken place in our county. And I'm all for honesty. I think we all have to be honest with each other, because if we can't be honest, we got a real problem. So, if there's voter fraud, I want to know it too. And so I've contacted the California Secretary of State, and I asked her, how many cases of voter fraud have been identified, confirmed in Shasta County. I couldn't get an answer. I asked our register of voters the same question, and the same thing, no answer. I've asked our supervisors, didn't get an answer. So I thought, well, surely the election commission here, this designed to restore confidence in our voting system, would have that answer. Can you give me an answer? How many cases of voter fraud have been confirmed in Shasta County? Or how could I find that information? Because I'm honestly looking for that information. Maybe you can't answer me. I don't know, but I think that answer should be available to the people in the name of honesty and integrity of our government system. Everybody here should be interested in how many cases of voter fraud have been confirmed in our county. If we can't provide that, then I think that all this time and expense has been based on just suspicions about suspicions. Because if there's no evidence, all there is suspicions. So if it would be at all possible for you to direct me to where I can find that information about the cases of voter fraud in Shasta County, I would appreciate it. I think that I think the people deserve that. So thank you.
Thank you. Lori Bridgeford.
Good afternoon, Chair and Board. I'm not sure if you want to call off people so that they're waiting in queue on the railing, or just call one person at a time. It's obviously up to you.
Good idea. Susan
okay.
is next.
Okay, thanks. So my question is more along the lines of what a lot of people are wondering about, if the grid, the power, the electricity impacts elections. And so I'm not sure how far we are with having backup on paper, street roll, what is it called? Voter roll? Street rolls, there's different names. There's so many different names for the same thing. Anyway, my main theme is I hope we have enough paper documentation so if there is a glitch that we're not just having another opportunity for more fraud, because then look, yay, there's chaos and this, that, and the other thing. So I was on the website this morning with the elections.shastacounty.gov checking on the drop boxes. I still see them listing as there's 6 permanent ones. They still have ones entitled staffed, which means it's a normal business inside a business. Again, I'm not sure about the safety, the monitoring. I know I saw a store back on 273. The drop box is right next to the sliding doors, right there. I don't know if they're still going to be one of those drop box locations. So that there's apparently in these 24-hour places, checking is supposed to be done every 24 to 48 hours. I don't know if that's sufficient or who does that or whatnot. So covered that, the emergency plan. I will not be addressing R4, that's later. I think it's totally common sense to have election judges, more pairs of eyes and transparency. My last comment is to the new appointee, Brad Garbett. You barely got in by one person, and I hope you will refrain from being juvenile, nasty, and all the rest. I've seen your postings. People send them to me, and please try to be accountable for your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts. Be mature about it. And to say that somebody provoked you or they made me do it, it sounds like a child. So I hope you will do far, far better now that I'm seeing you seated. I presume you took an oath or two. And I expect to see you be very respectful to everyone, not just your colleagues at the dais. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Weiss, followed by Dolores Lucero.
Yes, I would like to compliment your presentation, Luke, is it? Yeah. I agree with him. You could tell at the last Board of Supervisors meeting that even the supporters of Mr. Cry, Mr. Kellstrom, and Mr. Jones are getting frustrated with the lack of change for this election coming up. They're even getting frustrated. I asked the board at the last meeting, what is their end game? Like, how long are we going to play this out? What is their end game? What do they want from you, and by when? What is your end game? What do you intend to, what's your purpose? Like, when are we going to wrap this up? Okay, I agree with him. If there's fraud, prove it. I've seen Mr. Frank's presentation, the first man that came in? But you didn't bring in the other professional to tell about what flaws there were in his presentation. We haven't seen any proof of anything. No proof, and we're just sitting here week after week after week spending money and time and chaos. If you really want to get something done, set a deadline and get it done.
Okay.
I'd just like to make a comment. The gentleman who was on the opposite end of the spectrum is Dr. Frank. We asked him numerous times to come to our commission meeting, and he didn't respond.
This committee we shouldn't even have a committee. You guys are basically just in the middle trying to do Patrick's and everybody else's dirty work. And so that's the bottom line. I reached out to Mr. Toller, the new guy who has no experience in the election department in regarding election fraud. He basically contacted me after 3 weeks, sends me a text and letting me know. It says, I won't read the whole thing, but it says, I am happy to discuss this with you, but should understand that unfortunately the office has no authority. So he has no authority to look into fraud. So what the hell is the committee going to be doing for all this time? If he has no authority, neither do you. You have no authority. So why do we keep on doing this and wasting the taxpayers' money? Because I can tell you right now, of all the people who've been complaining about election fraud, I can tell you, I'm the only one who could prove it, and I have the documents, and I could show it. But I won't do it. Because you know why? Because of you people keep on saying there's election fraud. And you keep on saying the Constitution, all this bunch of bull, and going against the people who have the same Constitution that you do, and yet you want to take their Constitution rights for them to speak. That's why I won't do it. I want not disclose what I have. And I have information, but I won't do it because you guys piss me off. And I won't do it. Yeah, you can laugh all you want, Mrs. What's her name? Mrs. Patty Plum. You know, you're a hypocrite for you to be doing prayers. That's about, you are a hypocrite. Yeah, you can look at me if you want, but you are a hypocrite because you talk about election, and yet you're out there going door to door and campaigning for others, which is a conflict for you to be involved because you're on the commission. You can't be doing this, prohibit. You think it's okay to just break the laws, and then when somebody does it, and you guys, it's okay for you guys. What makes you think you're better than the others? That's why I call you a hypocrite, because you say things ain't true. You do the opposite of what you claim to be. A godly man, a godly woman doesn't go breaking the law and supporting somebody who actually believes it's okay for the guy to go have an affair with another family, like your family. Okay? Kevin Craig destroyed your family because he had an affair with your daughter-in-law. Okay? Yeah, that's right. How do I know that?
Sarah,
It is. You know what?
speak on.
You know what? You're under investigation by the state bar. You're under investigation by the state bar. Just so you know that.
Thank you.
Patty Plum, Cheryl Clifford, I was there when you talked to her. She got the phone on speaker. So she said nothing.
Okay. Sorry I didn't stop that sooner. RC followed by Dan. RC?
I'm Dan, I'm not RC.
Okay, is RC here?
Is it
Oh,
Casey?
Casey, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Casey.
Hi, good afternoon. How can we hope to wrest sovereignty away from the oligarchy and back to the people? We have seen Donald Trump with his tens of thousands at each of his rallies all across the nation, and according to polls, he will be the winner of the upcoming election. This is a cautionary message from him to all election officials, including those in Shasta County. Cease and desist. I, together with many attorneys and legal scholars, am watching the sanctity of the 2024 presidential election very closely because I know, better than most, the rampant cheating and skullduggery that has taken place by the Democrats in the 2020 presidential election. It was a disgrace to our nation. Therefore, the 2024 election, where votes have just started being cast, will be under the closest professional scrutiny. And when I win, these people that cheated will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences so that this depravity of justice does not happen again. We cannot let our country further devolve into a third world nation, and we won't. Please be aware that this legal exposure extends to lawyers, political operatives, donors, illegal voters, and corrupt election officials. Those involved in unscrupulous behavior will be sought out, caught, and prosecuted at levels unfortunately never seen before in our country. These past 4 years has been a wake-up call for our nation as continuous cases of election fraud throughout our nation have not ceased to come up in the headlines. Confidence in our election system for legal voters is despairingly low. I, as a voter, election worker, and election observer, are utterly disgusted by the lack of security, integrity, transparency of our election process in Shasta County. The secrecy by which they operate is an outrage. I know certain members of the Board of Supervisors and those that oppose election integrity have worked very hard to sabotage and place this election commission in danger. The public should never put up with this. We are in a war against the corrupt elite and against those in our own community who do their bidding. We must stand up against their wishes to make up their own rules in our election office and strip voters their rights to know what's really going on in there. This is about our freedom, our sovereignty, our liberty, and our justice for all. Those calling for the disbanding of this election commission. Thank you.
Dan? Followed by Benjamin.
My name's Dan. I was to come after. Okay. I see you're calling the next one. So this is only my second meeting. I have the same goal that I think all you do is I want transparency and integrity in our elections. And this meeting has showed me a lot more than the previous meetings because I hear all the disagreement and the upset and veins popping out of the necks of people that are just very upset about what's happened in the past. So, or apparently they feel happened in the past. And so my goal is just to come and to see, what I as a citizen can do to help make this election one that we can really believe when we, the next morning we can say, yes, this happened. I think one way of doing that is by keeping paper records of what's going on, not having all the electronics. With the electric shutdown we had after the assassination attempt the next day, all the power goes down, or all the internet goes down. If our election machines are dependent on electricity or on the internet, then we're going to have a major problem. And I don't want us having problems. We've seen in the room, here we are in nice little friendly Shasta. There's a lot of tension already about what could happen. And so I just want us to have the things in place so that we are prepared to have an election that everybody can say, yes, this was a fair election, the votes were counted, and this is what done. And I think paper is the way to go. I don't trust the electronics, and I think most of the public no longer trust electronics these days. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Benjamin, followed by Bert.
So I'm here today as a private citizen to discuss something we all want: election integrity. This is directly related to this board as it includes Commissioner Patty Plum. Yesterday, I attended a meeting of the Elections Task Force, which presents itself as a nonpartisan group aimed at cleaning up voter rolls and preventing fraud. Election integrity is important to me, so I wish to gain knowledge of what this group was doing. However, 20 minutes into the meeting, failed District 2 candidate Laura Hobbs, the meeting's leader, stepped out to take a phone call, and when she returned, my guests and I were asked to leave. We believe District 4 Patrick Jones may have given that order. Despite the flyers insinuating the meeting was public, we were only told it was private so that they could operate in the dark, without scrutiny. This raises significant concerns about the true intentions of the group. If they truly advocate for election transparency, why operate out of the public eye? Why target those who don't share your political beliefs? Their behavior suggests they're not interested in transparency at all, but in influencing elections.
Mr. Nguyen, that group is not under the jurisdiction of this commission.
Yes, but Patty Plum attended a recent meeting and actually gave a speech there, so I do believe it falls under the jurisdiction.
She can attend any meeting.
Understood, but she was potentially leading the meeting.
I wasn't as commissioner.
This raises significant concerns. The group on its face appears to be nonpartisan, but it's clear they are targeting individuals based on their voting histories, likely to maximize their ability to sway elections. This tactic under the guise of nonpartisanship could easily lead to voter intimidation or manipulation, which could be seen as a form of election interference. If they were truly nonpartisan, why were we, who do not share their political views, asked to leave? There are also deeper legal implications. Laura Hobbs, who recently lost a lawsuit challenging her defeat in the March primary, may be misusing voter data obtained during her campaign during the non-campaign purposes. California Election Code 2194 strictly limits how voter data can be used, and this group's activities may be violating those laws. If the data is being used outside its legally allowed scope, we're looking at a serious breach of voter privacy and electoral law. Now, Patty Plum, a member of the Shasta County Elections Commission, is advising this group. Her role raises serious ethical and legal concerns. California Code Sections 87100 and 91000 prohibit public officials from using their positions for personal or partisan gain. If Plum is leveraging her authority in the group's favor, she could be breaking the law. The group also discussed plans to create official-looking documents to make people feel that they're supposed to be there when engaging in voter registration efforts could also violate California Penal Code Section 529, which forbids impersonation or false representation of authority. The fact that we were asked to leave, likely due to our political views, is disturbing. It speaks to the group's desire to operate without scrutiny. This group's actions don't represent the true meaning of election integrity. Instead, they risk crossing legal lines and undermining the very transparency they claim to uphold.
Thank you. Bert, followed by Rick.
Good afternoon. The significance of America being a constitutional republic is that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Any purported statute, code, regulation, rule, or policy made consistently with the enumerated powers of the Constitution are presumed valid. In contrast, any purported law, statute, code, regulation, rule, mandate, or policy which opposes and/or violates the Constitution in any way whatsoever is unlawful, null, and void. No bureaucrat, politician, or person acting in an official government capacity has any legal authority to restrict the constitutional rights of any law-abiding citizen, nor alter the count of citizens' votes. Also, foundational to our constitutional republic is that the process of voting must be free, fair, and accurate. The 2020 presidential election and all elections since were touted by governments at all levels as free, fair, and the most secure elections in history. Since November 2020, little by little, the evidence has come out that these elections were not free, nor fair, nor secure. For example, every county registrar in every county in the country represented that the voting machines were not connected to the internet. Since then, it has been universally admitted that the voting machines were connected to the internet either by cable or by Wi-Fi. While counties maintain a log of those who physically accessed the individual machines in person, there is no record of unauthorized access of these machines using Wi-Fi during non-business hours, nor while actually counting votes.
Thank you, sir. Rick, followed by Jenny.
Good afternoon, and thank you for holding this meeting, and thank you, Jesus, for this beautiful day. I just want to make a comment that I had heard. It's a quote, and it says, good government can't save us, but bad government will certainly destroy us. And so that's exactly my motivation for going out and actually looking. I don't call the Secretary of State because I consider that bad government. And I actually look at evidence, and I look into things, and I see what's going on, and I can see all the problems in the election. Nothing's been done, and I have to accept that. But I'm going to continue coming in here even after the election, regardless of the outcome, because I know that nothing's been fixed. And nothing has been fixed, and nothing will be fixed anytime soon. But the things that we can work on is making sure that we have a backup for all the electronics, because electronics, if you have a power outage or a problem exists, back when I was a nurse, if you didn't have a paper backup, a critical medication could get missed. Something very drastic could happen. And I would argue that it's much more important for all of our people's vote than one person, okay? Because all of our vote matters. It matters a lot. And so I got to say, we need to have some backup no matter what. And even with a key fob backup, that can be manipulated. There needs to be paper backup of all electronics. Also, we need to clean the voter rolls. I'm going to make myself sound like a broken record because I've done this a million times up here. We need photo ID and verification of their residency. We need to return to one-day election day voting. Very important. We need to make sure that all this mail-in garb with the drop boxes and stuff is contained and figured out, and the entire public agrees on the process going forward, because there's too many disagreements. And I agree, we should have disagreements up here. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I disagree with our Secretary of State. Of course he's not going to get any information from her. Neither is anybody else, because it's bad government and it's bad governance. The good governance is when the people stand up for what is right and come up here and ask you guys to let's please fix these voter rolls. We need to have new requirements for election judges as well. These election judges are going to matter so that we, the public, can have some kind of sense that something's being done. So we can at least look at it and see that it's not being cheated right out from under us. This is important. It's vitally important. And it's also vitally important that we look into things and not just call the Secretary of State. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenny?
Thank you.
Jenny? Jenny, followed by Laura Hobbs.
A rogue group claiming for election integrity shows up at my church. Tells everyone it's a public meeting that they can attend to pray for election integrity, but unfortunately it was a private affair, apparently. Or maybe it's only private for people who disagree with them. Now, I wouldn't bring this up, except for the fact that we do indeed have someone on the Elections Commission with this rogue group. I would like it explained to me how someone from the Elections Commission can be a part of a group that is not a part of the county. They already stated in the 20 minutes I was there. Would someone like to interrupt me?
Jenny, I'm just going to interrupt you for 1 second. Council, can you address this now, or do you want to address it later? Because
that's fine. We'll add that to the lawsuit.
What she does on her own time, I don't think has any bearing on the commission.
So is it not about election integrity?
I'm going to let...
Whoa! Wow! People are loud and obnoxious and crazy.
I'm going to let county council address this issue.
Madam Chair, I'm not going to address what she's doing on the outside of the council. What I will say, though, is at this point, we allowed the last comment, so we may as well just let
I was going to allow her comment. I just wanted if you had anything to weigh in about this.
I don't at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So is this group about election integrity and our as the people's citizens, ability to trust the election and where it is headed? Because if that is not what this group is for, then I don't know what you're meeting for. Because I can tell you that having a group of rogue citizens meet up with a voter roll that we don't know where they got it from, and start talking to people that we don't know why they chose them, that I was assured that this was not voter intimidation, but I was assured when nobody asked. I do not trust an election where people are showing up and this is not held accountable by the government. That this is not, you are a government arm. You are a commission that was put forth to make us trust this election. So we cannot have rogue people on this commission without any accountability There needs to be accountability. You guys want transparency and accountability? Then why isn't this? Why wasn't what is that group called? The election task force, why wasn't it an arm of this commission? Why is it a rogue task force that has not been held accountable by anyone, that does not report to anyone? What is it for? If it's for the county, then the county should be involved. This is not okay. This is not okay. And it is definitely not okay to have an elections commissioner on it without being held accountable, without reporting what has happened, what is in the meeting, and without the public being involved in it. It should be a public meeting. And yes, Lori Bridgeford, you can take all the pictures you want.
I would like to just say, I would like to remind the public that this commission is tasked with creating recommendations for the Board of Supervisors related to election issues. That's what we do here. We have ad hoc committees that are working on creating those recommendations. So just want to remind everybody what we're doing here. Okay, next, Laura Hobbs.
Well, good afternoon, commissioners. Someone here has asked, why is there no evidence or confirmed voter fraud? And the reason that this is important is because in order to have this, we have to go back to hand counting. The machines are a black box. Nobody can see inside the machines to see if they're counting correctly. Audit logs produced from these machines are too long and too complicated for the average judge or average person to understand. In fact, they've admitted they don't look at the audit log before certifying an election. Furthermore, they're so long that to print them, they're between 17 and 92,000 pages long. No judge is going to allow a document that long into evidence. In addition, judges are adverse to allowing election evidence into trials. I saw that in my own case. The judge asked the county council to decide whether or not the county's own data, the ballot return data, should be allowed into evidence or not. This data would have shown that there are 167 more votes than there were voters in the official list of those who voted in District 2 during the primary. Yet the race was decided by only 14 votes. Guess what? The lawyer representing the county refused to allow this into evidence, and the judge, instead of adjudicating, he let the county's lawyers block this from entering evidence. This, my friends, is why we have very little official, publicly verified evidence of fraud. It's being blocked from court cases all across the country. And then I'd like to bring you to Election Code 15272, which says the count shall be public and shall be counted without adjournment until completed and the results are declared. During the reading and tallying, the ballot read and the tally sheet shall be kept within clear view of the watchers. Now, how is that going to happen during a machine count? It doesn't happen. It's completely blocked, completely private. We need a public process from start to finish. Machines are not public. They're private and they're hidden, and there's no way that the average person with their own eyes can verify the results of a machine count. So we need to go back to hand counting. And I'd like to make note on a different topic that there are people within this county who have witnessed voter fraud, who are being denied to be a poll worker for this county because of the fact that they've witnessed voter fraud and are willing to go before the court of law to testify to their witness, to what they witnessed. And that's wrong.
Thank you. Victoria, followed by Max.
I feel that the board is not aware of the urgency of our message. The electronic machines are and have been involved time and again with inconsistent results in election tampering. Though people have been imprisoned and sued for mentioning that fact, now the Smartmatic software company has been implicated in a foreign corruptions indictment filed by the DOJ. Though the company chooses to obfuscate the implications by alleging no voter fraud was committed and the company is not indicted, just the president and co-founder, what we know the Venezuelan co-founder and shareholder Malik Brown revealed 9 years ago on Philippine News that part of Smartmatic's technology and licensing is from Dominion. Furthermore, Malik Brown was Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Secretary General of the United Nations, and now President of the Soros Open Society Foundation. It is a case that applies to an election 10 years ago. And the only reason it has come to light now is that a new government has come into power in the Philippines that has allowed the case to go forward. How long will we allow this ruse to continue? We ask that you do everything in your power to listen to our appeals for action. Strengthen our voter integrity through strengthening our charter.
Thank you. Max Walker.
Good afternoon. Max Walters. I've been here in Reading since 1984, and I'm here for R3.
Sir, if you want to speak to R3, you can speak to it when we get to it. This is open public comment time.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
fine. Could you put him down for R3, you guys? Okay. Thank you. All right. I don't have any other public speaker forums, any other public comment at this time. Okay. One more, and then we'll move on. What's your name, ma'am?
Lori.
Lori, yes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your service. It's been several months since I've been able to be here, and it's as if I wasn't absent at all. There hasn't appeared to be any progress moving forward on getting to the real heart of the issue, and I think we can probably all agree that not everyone's going to agree on the state of past elections, but what we can do moving forward. And I have to believe in my heart that most people want a transparent, free, fair, secure election. And so I would encourage the attendees here and the commission members to focus on those things most important leading up to November 5th. This is all distraction. This is all losing time. So I would just really encourage everyone to reach into your heart and know that we're all, United States citizens. We all want fair and free elections. And let's move forward and just make sure we get it. That's all people are asking for. Let's do the work, take the steps to make sure we have an honest election. That's a noble effort by anyone's standard. So I just encourage people to really try not to get distracted by these peripheral issues. Know that we're not all going to agree, but let's march forward in good faith and do the things like, clean up our voter rolls. We've all heard that there's voter rolls that are out of date in our country. Let's work on that. Let's work on eliminating the extra drop boxes that by law don't need to be here. Let's work on limiting the mail-in voter thing to the ballot process to the point we can. Those steps we can take in a very short period of time, and let's stop with the distractions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Jim Burnett, and I just want to say a couple of things. One is if Donald Trump had a voting machine company and these voting machines were stamped with his brand on there, I guarantee you everybody in this room would be saying, we're not letting that count our votes. Secondly, riffing off of that, I want to go back to the old school way of voting, go back to the old school way of registering and having a clean voter roll, showing registration or proof of identity when you go to the poll to prove that you are who you are and you have the right to vote there. And finally, hand counting. Yes, hand counting. I don't think we should stop until we reach that gold standard that most of the major countries in Europe have adopted simply because they don't trust each other. They don't trust the machines to do the counting and tallying of their votes. I don't think we should either. We need opposing people sitting at the tables, looking at each other, counting the votes with observers, bipartisan observers, keeping their eyes on, jealously guarding their vote and making sure that the other side doesn't cheat. It's very simple, very old school, and there's no way that you can trust what's going on in a machine that has proprietary software. Even when you run scientific experiments with lots of computations and mathematics employed, people have to be able to know exactly what is happening so that the results can be either replicated or disproven. And we can't do that with our current system. So that's why we're going to continue to fight this until we can achieve full transparency and let the chips fall where they may. Right now, we can't trust anything, and I think that's the one thing that should unite us is we need to trust our system. Thank you for your work.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your efforts. Tim Saunders, District 1. I'm here to reiterate yet again that we, like our last speaker, Jim Burnett, good job, Jim, we need honest, fair, open elections where there's hand-counted paper ballots. Now, I know there's an election coming, and so we may have to live with the machines, but we can sort on the front end and do an audit on the back end and ensure that our votes are counted and additional votes from God knows where are not counted, right? For most of our history, we've done hand-counted paper ballots, and it's worked great for us. I'm making an assumption that most of the people in this room are about my age, so that for most of our lives, we've had hand counting, and it's worked. Like Jim alluded to, several industrialized modern nations in Europe have gone back to hand counting because of the corruption in the Dominion and other electronic systems software. We're looking to you, young ladies and gentlemen, to uphold justice and recommend to the board with firmness that we do everything we can for honest, fair elections. Let's forensic audit of the books, single day voting, no drop boxes, back to original absentee ballots only, one day elections, dual custody the whole time, dual counting, no individual counting like we had in these last elections where one person just says how many votes are going in. And just let us return to fair elections. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, I would, okay, one more, and then we're going to move on.
Hi, I'm Sherry Landon. I'm with District 4, and I just wanted to I'm taking the time out of my day to come and be a part of this committee or listen to what's being discussed because I want a fair and honest election as well. And everything that was said about the hand counting, you don't need me to repeat all the codes that go along with that, but yeah, I just want a fair and honest election. So, and hand counting, I think, is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Briefly, I'd just like to add to my previous narrative about what this commission does, what it's tasked with. And that is to say, I'm going to see about, whether or not the clerk of the board can post the recommendations that we have already approved on our webpage so they're easy for people to find. And because a lot of things that were mentioned today, some of the things that were mentioned today, we have already made recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. So if you are concerned about those particular items, you need to be petitioning the Board of Supervisors because it is currently out of our hands. All we are doing is making the recommendations. Yes. Okay, that said, we're going to move on.
Chair Lund?
Yes.
I'm sorry, could I chime in?
Yes.
So just a quick clarification. The recommendations that have been approved by this commission are already available online.
Well, they're in the packets.
They are in the packets, correct?
Right. It's just hard for people to find them and know where they are and how to find them and what we've approved and what we haven't. So we can talk about it later.
Sure, can do. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right. Consent calendar. Approve the minutes of the meeting held on August 12th, 2024. Do I have a motion, or would anybody like to discuss anything related to the minutes? And are there any public comments for C1? Start there. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back. Do I have a recommendation or any comments?
I'll have to abstain.
Okay, that's fine.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from.
I'll second that. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those abstaining? Is Mr. Garbett abstaining?
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. All right. 3 yeas, 1 abstain. All right, moving on to R1. Receive an update from the County Administrative Office regarding the Shasta County Election Commission budget, including total amounts budgeted and total expenditures for fiscal years 2023-24 and 24-25. Stuart, turn it over to you.
Back over to me. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioner. Stuart Butel, Deputy County Executive Officer. I appreciate the Commission's patience in allowing staff time to review and confirm this information prior to this presentation. In fiscal year 2023-24, the total budget for the Elections Commission was ultimately approved by the Board of Supervisors at $55,000. Of that, approximately $15,110.84 was actually expended, mostly due to costs associated with retaining outside counsel to advise the Commission. Other costs are attributed to extra help hired to assist with preparing for these meetings, as well as other general office expenses. We anticipate there may be some additional forthcoming charges pertaining to the last fiscal year, which may change that expenditure, but they shouldn't exceed the total approved budget. For fiscal year 2024-25, the total budget for the Elections Commission was approved by the Board of Supervisors at $26,653. That breaks down into the following categories: $18,000 for extra help, $8,000 for professional legal services, and $653 for general office expenses. Thus far, the Commission has incurred a little over $1,130 this fiscal year, primarily in the extra help cost center or budget. The remainder is attributed to general office expenses, such as printing the agenda. And I'd also like to note other personnel, such as myself, County Counsel, the Clerk of the Board, and costs associated with using this room are not included in this report because that information is not readily available. However, moving forward, staff have already started documenting their time that they spend working with this commission, and we should have an estimate of those costs, like I said, moving forward. It's also worth noting that even though the budget approved by the board may be higher, the Commission only incurs actual expenses, which may not reach the total amount that was projected and ultimately approved. And that concludes my report, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to open it up for public comment. Any public comment on R1?
So, Chair, just a comment. This is a no vote item, so we don't have to take public comment, but it's at your discretion.
Okay.
I filed a request.
Okay. Since yeah. All right, Christian?
So now we're talking, excuse me. Sorry. Now we're talking about money. That's usually where the buck stops. And this is a request of information. I'm requesting a record of every penny this commission has spent from its inception to this date. Because we're talking about money, Freedom of Information Act. The money does not belong to this commission. The money belongs to the people of Shasta County. $100,000. Think of how many lunches that would buy in our school district. $100,000. It ain't much, but hey, what if we gave deputies an extra $1,000 to guard our streets? But that's not important, because what's important here? Spreading lies and propaganda. Will our council be able to give the definition of hearsay? No. Well, gee, that's not looking too good there, counselor. In fact, what happens here in these meetings, what you spend $100,000 on, essentially, is hearsay. All of it is propaganda. Now, I I apologize, Chair. It seemed to me like you said we're not going to be talking about the Laura Hobbs case because it's out of your jurisdiction. Yet,
If you can stick to R1, that'd be great.
yet I'm sticking to waste of money. Yet we spent the time to have Laura Hobbs come up here and give hearsay. Hearsay that was dumped out of court about as fast as it possibly could be because it's all hearsay BS. Could our council give us a definition of...
Anything else about R1, Christian?
Yeah, R1. R1, is that about money?
He just gave a report on the money. There's no
the money.
$100,000
Money.
issue.
Money.
Yeah.
Money. Money. So what you're spending money on. What you're spending money on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're spending money on hearsay. You're spending money on... Could the council give definition of jurisdiction? That I'm sure you could, because that was probably in freshman law course. Jurisdiction is what you have authority in, what this body has authority over. And 90% of what we hear in our waste of money is so far beyond your jurisdiction, it's a joke.
Alrighty. I thought I had another one here. Okay, here we go. How about Dolores?
You're always spending money, and you're spending money that doesn't belong to, for you guys, the committee, to be voting or even making decisions, period. Or even to recommend anything to the Board of Supervisor. Because you guys don't have no teeth in regarding what you do in this committee. You know, you talk about how, I heard the other day on the radio about how the city of Reading is actually trying to go around and trying to kick the can down the road and regarding the rodeo. That's what you guys are doing. It's the same thing. I heard Patrick and a couple people on the radio talking about this. The real reason is because they're going to vote no on the issue, on the rodeo. That's why they're holding back from making a decision in the city of Reading. You guys are in the same boat. You have no teeth, but yeah, you guys are working to try to do whatever you're trying to do. Is that you're trying to work for Patrick Jones, and you guys are puppets. Because the part is where I find it very interesting is that you guys say things, but yeah, you do the same thing in the opposite what you claim that you're not going to do. So what part? You guys are all connected with Patrick and Kevin Cry and everybody else. So when you talk about money, it's a conflict for you guys all be connected through emails, because you guys all get emails with Patrick, Kevin Cry, and all of them. So for you guys to make any decisions, it's a conflict for you guys to be connected with them through emails and talking about what goes on in these meetings, period. Because Lori Freebridge actually gives everybody an update what happens in this meeting in regarding all the money and anything else that happens here. So you are spending and wasting money and abusing the people's money because you guys are doing it under the table, behind the scenes, thinking you guys are outsmarting people. I could bring you the emails that you guys are all in it with Patrick Jones and Kevin Cry and Chris. When you guys talk about what goes on in these damn meetings, that is a freaking waste. That's a conflict of interest. Because whenever you guys make decisions, they already know. Because you guys are already talking through emails. And I have all those emails. All of you guys are on there. Except the new guy. Sorry. But you guys are all in it. And I want to bring that. And I will do something with that. Because now it just dawned on me that you guys are all connected. So stop wasting our tax dollars. We don't approve of it.
Just for the record, I have never had an email communication with Supervisor Jones.
I'm here to thank you for being on the committee and for taking the crap that's been dished at you today. But I'm going to talk about the budget, because apparently on that budget you forgot their salaries. Can we talk about the salaries these people get for being up here? It's got to be a lot to take this crap. How much do they get paid?
Jurisdiction?
On the budget, where's their salaries?
So, serving on this commission, they get no compensation.
Oh, they're volunteers? These people choose to come in and take this? I'm impressed, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your service. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Okay, Debbie.
Hello, I'm one of the silent majority people here. And one of the things that I have a gripe with is the finances with this county. So I am one that has written in and asked for the total expenses. I think Stuart just brought up, what I brought up is I said, well, I know you're not paid. Staff is paid, if they have security, whatever else is here besides the supplies. There is also the time that has been pulled from the ROV office that when they're asked to do reports, meet, come to meetings, all of that cost center. I don't understand your books, your ledgers here, because on my mind, what I've tried to write in, and I'm very frustrated with your next request program, but that's another story. But anyhow, I'm trying to write in. I feel like I'm talking to a computer now, and that's why I came today, because I thought maybe there's a real person here that will get the point when you are cost centering what the total cost is to run this commission. It includes the staff, you, the time the ROV takes, the printing supplies. In R3, they're going to want to have an attorney look at all of this. I mean, it's not free. So, and my numbers don't match up. So I'm still requesting more information because the numbers I have do not match up to what you just quoted. So, and I'll just leave it at that. I have other things I'm working on, the Laura thing too, but that's a different subject, I suppose. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much for that report. And I was just trying to jot it all down. I think it's money very well spent. I think it's worth every single penny. I appreciate having a place to voice our concerns, and it's kind of like it frees up the supervisors sometimes too, if you can actually narrow down what the main concerns are of the citizens and then provide it to them instead of them having to address us all individually. But in your report, would it be possible to just explain, I tried to jot it down as quickly as I could. Is it possible to post that on the website, the expenses? Because he said 100,000, but I heard 1,000.
Yeah.
Was it 1,000 you said for this year so far?
So I stated thus far this year, the commission has incurred a little over $1,130 in expenses.
Okay, for the whole year.
So far. Correct.
Okay, that's cheap. That's very, very cheap. I think it's worth every single cent. I'm surprised that didn't cost us 100,000, honestly. And I think even if it had cost 100,000, it would have been worth it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I just want to thank you, the Election Commission, working as volunteers directly for the people as true representatives for what the people truly care for and we deserve as watchdogs for us, for our elections.
Try to stick to R1, please. We're talking about the finances.
The extreme waste of money that Mr. Gardner doesn't mention and doesn't seem to care about are the millions spent of our taxpayer dollars on a known corrupt election machine, Dominion, used by our county for 20 years. And he didn't mention Kathy Allen spending $25,000 on replacing a perfectly fine fence as a publicity stunt. Those calling for the disbanding of having an election commission are very afraid of transparency. I wonder why. Thank you.
Thank you for having me up here again. I'd be remiss if we did not address the cost of the poll books. I've never heard anybody mention how much those costed, or the cost of switching to another electronic machine, which is ridiculous. Or how about that steel gate in the room? I've never heard anybody complain about the cost of a steel gate being put up at the RV office. Or how about the famous new building we had to have, a second building for elections? I don't understand that at all. Nobody addressed those costs, but everybody's going to complain about small little costs. The cost of having a fair and free election matters, and it matters more than any of these other costs do. But nobody's complaining about these costs except me. I'm going to complain about it. I think the gate needs to come down, and we need to put that scrap metal in something else.
So again, try to stick to R1, which is our budget.
I'm trying to save us money. We can make some scrap metal money off of that, and we can donate it toward the $120 we need to get these copies. There's ways of making money here. Why is that gate? You could probably sell that gate for money. Think about it. I don't know what the cost was, but nobody seems to care about that cost, and I do. And I just wanted to bring it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if anybody else wants to speak to R1, get up there right now, because we're going to move on after Lori, otherwise.
Okay. Thank you, Chair, for taking this, even though it's a no vote. You could have absolutely said we're just going to move on, but thank you. This is important for clarification, because if I understand correctly, the two of them and the two of these ladies, they're on the clock anyway, no matter where they are in the county. So I don't know if that's, are you being paid extra to be at these meetings? Does it put you in some kind of overtime? If that could be clarified, that would be helpful. And I have publicly mentioned that wrought iron fence at least 2, maybe 3 times at these meetings, as we were never involved in that. Massive amount of money. So anyway, I think, as the other speaker said, this is a complete bargain to have this, because you're giving recommendations. You're not here to, change and flip things. All you can do is take recommendations, and there's people still in the back that don't understand that, don't hear it, don't grasp it. You're not here to flip the world over upside down. You're here to coherently put together recommendations so that this can move forward up to the Board of Supervisors. And so I would like to make one final suggestion for these meetings. For the person that continually snickers and laughs, I would like him pushed back like it happens in the regular board meetings, because it's absolutely annoying, irritating, and very frustrating. And this is why we have a cost, is when we have to have extra security for people like that. Thank you.
It's called the First Amendment.
I feel compelled to compliment the commission on, if I understood correctly, plus or minus a little bit, the annual budget's $55,000, and you spent $15,000 for 23-24, and then so far for 9 months you spent a little over $1,100. Money well spent, job well done. I think that you should be publicly commended for being prudent, for being efficient, and doing the work. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to R2. Approve an expenditure in the amount of...
Chair.
Yes.
I apologize. Can I chime in and clarify a few things?
Sure.
So just to... I realize I should have defined it in my presentation, but I'll define it now. So our fiscal year runs from July 1st through June 30th.
Yeah.
So
I knew that. But
okay.
Okay.
The other piece is, and I'll just broadly state that salaried staff are not compensated anything additional for attending these commission meetings. Hourly staff, depending on their workload and what the commission is doing, could potentially get overtime or comp time, something like that, depending on, like I said, workload. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, R2, approve an expenditure in the amount of $120 to obtain 3 copies of the active voter roll by the ad hoc committee established to examine and research issues pertaining to the voter rolls. Do I have a motion anybody would like to make? Or, well, I guess, let's see. We have some public comment, so I will call up Rick. If anybody didn't turn in a card for R2, get up there and stand up there, because When that line is done, I'm going to move on.
I agree with spending $120 on paper copies of anything. I think we should have backup everything, and I am willing to put out a fundraiser for the $120 if it is not approved at this committee meeting or at any other committee meeting. I know I can find 10 or 12 other people to put a couple of bucks in with me, and we can get that $120 in here. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Jenny? Jenny, are you going
I'm a
to speak?
preschool teacher. I can wait until they're done laughing at me.
Okay, well, it's going to start counting on your time.
Oh, I see. So they don't get told to be
I
quiet.
can't hear what they're saying, so I'm sorry if they were offending you.
If they're
but
disruptive?
Right now. Well, you have somebody behind you that is always disruptive to people, so please.
And do you tell him to be quiet when he's disruptive?
I tried to. I didn't hear what
But
they
you
were
didn't
saying.
tell them to be quiet.
I didn't hear it, Jenny. I apologize. Could you please go on with your comment?
So I'm a little concerned about why you would need to purchase the voter roll. Don't you already have it? Patty Plum is a part of that group
It
that
changes
has.
constantly, just for your information. I'm not going to get it back.
So you just want the most recent one is all that. That's all I was asking is if they already have it and they're using it, it seems that you could just have their voter roll since it seems to be an arm of what's already happening.
You cannot share voter rolls. If you purchase a copy.
But isn't she already a part of that group?
I have no idea, Jenny. Anyway, I'm not getting back and forth. Okay, give your public comment.
Well, I guess that was it. It was just a question.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right.
Thank you. I do absolutely support spending $120 on these voter rolls, and I hope that we could actually expand that and approve right now the amount that it would cost to obtain those voter rolls every 2 weeks, because like you said, it's not a stagnant product, a stagnant document. It's always changing, so we need to have an accurate record to look back upon. So if I would recommend that you increase that amount, and so that as elections draw near, we have the ability and the funding needed to go forward and request more than just one voter roll. Thank you.
Thank you.
So on this approval for 120,000.
It's 120.
Okay, I'm sorry, 120, sorry. I wish you guys just shut up when people get up here. Well, you know what,
Dolores,
Nick, you're a big mouth.
Please continue.
This, for you guys to be spending money, I mean, this is, of course, Laura's going to come up here and recommend, because if she's part of a lawsuit still, her case is going to the Court of Appeals, then she could not be coming up here recommending for you guys to approve this kind of money, even if it's $100, $20. If she's still part of a lawsuit pending in the Court of Appeals, I know, but I'm just saying,
with the commission.
right, for the commission, she cannot come up here and give you recommendations. She cannot come and make recommendations for you guys to be approving. I am sticking to R2. Now you're acting like Kevin Crack. So here's the thing. She cannot come up here and recommend. He knows that. The attorney should know that. She can't do that. It's prohibited for her to be doing that. There's laws that you guys need.
Do you have any other comments?
I'm just saying, when is this money? Okay, yeah, of course.
Okay.
I do have.
Please go on.
Do you like to be like Kevin Craig? I guess you do. I'm sorry, but you do. Because you guys always do that when you don't like to hear what I have to say, regardless.
We have no jurisdiction over Laura Hobbs, so please.
Yeah, but I'm just making a point for you guys to understand that when you take somebody else's opinion or advice or any recommendation for somebody who's involved with the election fraud or whatever, if you guys take that recommendation, it's actually prohibited for you guys to do that. But for you guys to approve 120, of course, they think it's a good cost because it's their deal, and it's also part of your deal. It is pretty sad. It's all about. It's okay for you guys to spend taxpayers' money. It's not coming out of your pocket. I don't see you saying, here's $120. It's easy to vote. Oh yeah, let's vote, make motion. It's not your money. If it was your money, you wouldn't be putting it out. And another thing, that when you guys voted for $1,000, it was only 2 meetings. 2 meetings. So God, unbelievable.
You have 30 seconds, Dolores.
Okay, fine. I'll come back.
23 now.
Well, since Laura's going to come here badmouth me, I might as well, we know her game. But I'm just saying, it's a waste. I just think it's so sad because now you guys are everybody's watching you. You might not see the cameras are on, but people are paying attention how much money you guys are spending.
Thank you. All right.
Ooh.
Good afternoon. I see that you'll be taking a vote for this one, and as you heard very clearly, there are plenty of us that would help put a fundraiser and make this happen, so it's that crucial and that important. I have not badmouthed that individual, and this is just getting kind of scary. Listen to people have a thing. So, $120, I like the idea of keeping it current because it does change if they're doing the appropriate thing, keeping the voter rolls clean and current. And I'd like to say one last thing. When Dr. Hobbs had her lawsuit case, and then it had a hearing on that, if she's currently not a litigant, I think she's free to roam the cabin and can say and do anything she wants. So,
can you please stick to our...
Yeah, I'm just saying, it was brought up that there's conflict of interest and something. So I think $120 is fine, absolutely very affordable given inflation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say that I absolutely agree on the $120. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that would put up that money if it was some big deal. But the reason why I want them always current, like every 2 weeks, is I want to make sure that my son is not receiving 3 ballots at 3 different addresses. One myself, and he hasn't lived with me for over 10 years. So, yeah, I would like to see the $120 and every 2 weeks and just verify that he is not on the voter roll more than once. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, I'm bringing it back to the commissioners. Any discussion on this? Sure.
Can I ask what the ad hoc committee is going to do with the voter roll?
We're evaluating them. We're looking at them and evaluating them and how they change and what types of issues people have reported are problems with them, those kind of things.
Okay. I just want to comment that you're never going to get an accurate voter roll.
No, it's constantly changing.
Well, not only that,
Yeah.
but there are people that are not on the voter roll that are actual voters. And that's because there are protected people that are not going to be on there. These are people that have been victims of domestic violence,
Understood.
sexual assault,
Yeah.
stalking, other crimes. You also have judges,
Yeah.
law enforcement officials, elected officials.
Yeah, there's
that are not going to be on that list.
There's the confidential role, there's the council's role, there's the inactive.
And I want to quote Patty Plum because she made a very accurate statement about voter rolls. She said, maintaining the voter roll is like sweeping a dirt floor. It will always be dirty. There is no such thing as a clean voter roll. It changes every day. I am responsible for that. In my business, I make people move. And so every day, people move, and I guarantee you, when they move, they do not think, I need to call the election office and tell them that I've moved. You have buyers and sellers that are moving around, moving within the county, out of the county, out of the state, out of the country. You also have...
If I could address that for a minute.
Okay.
The post office has a system a change of address system. And so that's an avenue by which
Yes.
the ROV's office can,
Yeah.
you know.
People die.
Yeah, yeah.
People register to vote.
Yep, yep.
Kids go off to college.
Yep.
So you're not going to really, you can get a copy of the voter roll, but there's not many conclusions you can make. And even if you could wave a magic wand over the voter roll and make it perfect today,
Yeah.
tomorrow it's not going to be accurate. So I'm not sure what the reason is to get a copy of the voter roll, because I don't really think there's much productive that you can do with it.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anything?
My main point about a lot of these voter rolls also is that there have been wrong addresses and the people are voting off of them. There have been different things. So I take what you're saying also as a good comment. There are protective rolls for those. Also, there's just been, it's been a mess throughout all this. So the more that we can make sense of it, the better off we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to agree with my comment. This is not an easy process, and what we've been involved with the past several weeks, months, and years is a time of discovery where we have learned a lot because of what has transpired not only in our county but other counties. So what happened 4 years ago is different from what's going on now, and so with tangible information, it can be helpful to do comparisons of what we had seen prior and to understand the categories that we're looking at. The voter rolls are fed through 7-8 different venues, including the DMV and different ones. So this is all part of our discovery and being educated not only for a commission, but also for information for the public to know. And so with these recommendations, it comes along with the evidence that we are acquiring for this purpose. So $120 I do see is a valuable investment for us to be able to get information needed and to learn as we go and to teach and to share with others as well. So I see this as valuable. Thank you.
I would like to make a motion that we approve purchase of 4 copies of the voter rolls so that we could get one at E-60, before the election, after the election, and there's already one being held for us from prior, has not been released because we had not approved the expenditure. So I would like to propose that we approve purchase of 4, which would be $160, and 160. So do I have a second on that?
I second it.
Okay. Is there somebody working over there that can take a roll call vote?
Absolutely. Any particular order? Commissioner Garbett?
No.
Commissioner Hanson? Yes. Commissioner Plum?
Yes.
And Commissioner Lund?
Yes. Okay, motion carries.
Chair, before we move on, can I just request the commission, or request you to state again what dates you would like those voter files?
I'd have to talk with our ad hoc committee on the exact dates, but it will be 4 copies.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I can tell you one will be prior to E-60 and one will be at E-60. Okay.
That works, thank you.
Okay, moving on to R3. Approve recommendations to the Board of Supervisors regarding a return to limited absentee balloting and a return to one-day elections. I'm going to take public comment on this first, and I have no speaker requests, or maybe I do. Okay, thank you. Okay, Christian, you're up.
What is this doing here?
I think that's KRCR's.
So I'm going to quote from your empirical evidence that made up some of R3, which is not available to the public here today, which might be a violation of the Brown Act. Well within 50 million ballots cast, there have been only 2 verifiable cases of fraud representing 0.00004%, 0.00004%, or about 5 times less likely than getting hit by lightning in the United States. And this is from the director of the Caltech MIT Voting Technology Project, which is quoted in your document. In other words, you're chasing rabbits down holes. Your R3 recommendations are illegal under the state of California law. Shasta County Elections Commission recommends that the board use all of its authority within its jurisdiction to basically return to a limited absentee balloting and run one-day elections. You can recommend all you want, but it's not going to happen. It's illegal. It's violation of California law. So chasing this rabbit down the hall is going to cost you an awful lot of money, and it's not within the jurisdiction of this county. Creating an ordinance, that's perhaps legal. But just like the Jones Gun Sanctuary Ordinance or the Cry Round Up Mexicans and Deport Them Ordinance, California law would trump any language in such an ordinance. It's a huge waste of money, hard-earned taxpayers' money. Proposing a charter amendment. Sure, whatever, huge waste of taxpayers' money because, once again, we're not the state of Jefferson. California law would trump that language. Lobby the state of California legislature. Sure, why not? Hey, lobbyists love the money. Legal, but a waste of hard-earned taxpayers' money once again. And recommended by this board, or it's recommended that the board consult with highly qualified election attorneys. Hey, I'm sure let's get the band back together. I'm sure Hobbs and Haberbush would love to get a few more taxpayer dollars. And this is the last thing. How dare this commission threatens us with the board needs to move on this by whatever means possible to prevent civil unrest. You're threatening terrorist acts. That's not legal. You guys need to pull that out of this.
All right. Let's see. Max Walter. Max? Yeah. Followed by Susan Weiss.
Hello again. Oh, let me put this down. So R3 is all about voter suppression. And it's voter suppression without any burden of proof. I'd like to especially call out the same thing that Christian called out at the end. The way you word this in the end, you say, it's recommended the board move on these recommendations as quickly as possible by whatever means are necessary in order to prevent civil unrest. That's an outrageous statement to have in a county public document. It says that fomenting violence is coming. It sounds like a threat. Who wrote that? What? I assume a lawyer wrote that. Who wrote that? Because if somebody does get hurt after the election, they're going to come looking for that lawyer, and they may come looking for all of you who voted yes on this. And where have you been hearing these threats? You have an obligation to have a sit down with Sheriff Johnson and say, you know what, I've been hearing this, and I've been hearing this, and these are their names. So, by any means necessary, that's unbelievable. Don Duckett and Suzanne Barrymore, they resigned this commission because they believed your all means necessary meant breaking the law. That's why they resigned. And as your proof, you attach the Transparency Foundation. Who is the Transparency Foundation? It reads like right-wing propaganda. Do they have any burden of proof in a court of law? You quote Caltech, MIT in a document that came from 2001. It's 23 years old. How ironic that this is coming up, voter suppression, on Patrick Jones's Constitution Week. Oh, irony is dead. The Constitution is the law of the land, burden of proof in a court of law, not proofs that only exist in conservative media and conspiracy theory chat rooms. Don't recommend this voter suppression. It's anti-democratic without burden of proof. Democracy is the last best hope on earth. Everybody should be encouraged to vote, not to have your thumb. You shouldn't be putting your thumb on it without any proof. And your rhetoric is that of Malcolm X, not the Constitution, by any means necessary.
Followed by Dolores.
I guess I didn't read my packet well enough because that is shocking, Max. I had no idea that statement was in there. Really upsetting. I wanted to speak to R3 about, I don't know what limited absentee balloting means. I hope you explain that before you make your vote today on the recommendation, because I don't know what that means. I do think it's very unwise to go to one-day voting.
It's illegal.
Because, I mean, all of you would have reason to maybe at some time not be in the county at the time the voting happens. You might be going to your son's wedding. You might be in the hospital. You might be out of town. You might plan a big vacation. Your father might be dying. There could be any number of reasons why you can't vote. So to say that we go to one-day voting is limited, and I'm concerned that you want, I don't know what limited absentee balloting is, but I always use an absentee ballot, and I really think if you go to these kind of restrictions, people are not going to want to move to this county when they hear what the restrictions are on voting. We're already worried about doctors and lawyers and vets and judges who don't want to be here. This is just one more reason for them not to want to be here. I want fair voting, just like these people do. Everybody wants voting to be fair. But this, you really have to reconsider this. I'd really ask you as a citizen to vote this down for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Dolores? There she is.
I'm going to give you guys heads up. If you vote on this, I'll be happy to file the complaint. And I'm not filing it with the Secretary of State. I'm bringing in Gavin Newsom. And I'll tell you why. Because you think you could, guys, whoever recommend this, the attorney didn't get his license the way a normal attorney got it. So just so you know that, I know that. So, but if he wants to lose his license, that would be fine with me. So if you want to vote on this, put yourself in that situation by breaking the law, do it. Because I'll be glad to bring in somebody in to basically make you accountable for breaking the law. Violating people's rights. Violating the voters. I'd be glad to do it. So do it. Because you're going to do it anyways. But I'll be happy just to hear you guys vote. And the other attorney, it won't be long before he's gone. Because his license is pending under investigation, violating people's rights. Because I filed it. So I'm happy to hear that you guys have this to vote on it. What I enjoy more is that when people claim they don't want people to break the law, The same people who don't want to break the law are breaking it. The people who claim to be Constitution. The people who claim transparency. But yet, you guys are doing it. Think you're above the law. You're not. But I'll be glad, I'll be happy to see you guys vote on this, because when you vote, guess who else is going to be accountable? All of you, especially the ones who vote yes, and the attorney, and the Board of Supervisors. Even though Patrick Jones is back there listening to all this, he already knows. They're the ones who are actually pushing you guys to do their dirty work. You guys want to be the person in the middle where you also become where you get charged criminal? You guys want to be in that shoes? Do it. Then we could tell everybody that you guys are standing for your Constitution. But you cannot mean that you could break the law. Do it the right way. You know, that's what pisses me off. That people like you guys are just thinking that you could break the law. You find it like you're above the law. You think by using the Constitution, you could go ahead and just put stuff like this and it's okay? It's not. You cannot break the law. But you guys think you could. How many of these people, they follow you guys. That's why they don't know any better. Because they're puppets. They're just like you guys and Patrick Jones.
All right. Dan.
Alrighty, well, I'm going to thank you again for your volunteer service, and I'm sorry for the abuse and the threats that you were given there. It's interesting that some talked about terrorist attacks or terrorist threats, and yet they're the ones threatening the commission, and I appreciate you advising. For R3, it's very important, the extent of the mail-in ballots that were given because of COVID, supposedly, and that we're doing that again. There's a difference between the mail-in ballots and the absentee ballots, and I'm sure you're aware of that, but for those that are upset about all that, absentee ballots are valid. I mean, there's reasons why you can't get out, you can't vote that particular day, you're out of town, you're sick, you're in a nursing home. Absentee ballots are very valid, but to give everybody a ballot on whatever address based on a voting poll, which all of you agree that changes on a daily basis, doesn't make sense to give ballots to an address instead of to a person. So we need to do that. In terms of the California dictates a lot of things to us as a state. But as a county, we have rights that supersede the state. So we have more authority on a local level than the state does. And so we can make those decisions. And you are making advice to the Board of Supervisors. So I encourage you to limit the number of ballots we mail out. Limit who gets an absentee ballot. And one-day voting is fair. It's a reasonable request to get people. It's an important day. We know what it is. And people put that on their agenda. And if they can't make it, they can get an absentee ballot. But we need to really limit the opportunities for nefarious work to happen. And that's going to happen by us limiting how many ballots we print and throw out there. And without verification of voter IDs, things like this, it's not going to get a fair election. And that's what we're here for, is to get a fair election. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Laura Hobbs.
Thank you, Board. Yes, I support R3. I encourage you to pass it. I recommend that you not be swayed by ill-informed citizens that are threatening you, saying that you are doing something illegal just simply by bringing recommendations forth to the governing body, which is the Board of Supervisors. These people who are threatening are habitual in their behavior, threatening that everyone's going to jail every time they come to the podium. Hopefully that you see through that. But I'd like to just mention that one-day voting is something that we've always done in our country. We need to go back to that. It's only since the COVID pandemic or scamdemic that we began doing anything differently. one-day voting. It might be a little bit inconvenient for folks, but it's worth it to be inconvenienced for accuracy and transparency and fairness in our election. So folks need to start to realize that it's okay to be a little inconvenienced by having to go to the polls. There are a lot of good reasons why we need to go back to one-day voting. It is what the Constitution says, so it's completely within our rights under the Constitution. And we have had Supreme Court cases, U.S. Supreme Court cases, which have basically said and supported what the Constitution said, which is that we do need to conduct our elections on one day. And the fact that we have this huge window of 30 days before and then 30 days after is ridiculous. There's no way you can maintain accurate chain of custody during that period of time. I think this was well written and it covered most all topics, and I would like to recommend that you do post it on the website separately from the agenda packet so that people can read it over. I believe we're well within our rights to move forward in this direction, and I support R3. Thank you.
Thank you. If anybody else wants to speak on R3, if you could get up there now, if you didn't put in a speaker request card, because as soon as that line is done, we're not going to keep going like this, because we need to make sure we get done here by 5.
Single-day election sounds just absolutely too good to be true. But I'm here advocating for that, and I also want to reiterate what one of the gentlemen said. I thank you guys very much for doing this. It takes a lot of courage to get up here and do this work that you're doing. And I want to say that we are in the United States of America. We're allowed to disagree, and we're allowed to agree. And I disagree with people in this room, and I agree with people in this room, and that's important. It's also important that we return back to single day. You know, and think about this cost savings. If we're sending 2 staff members out to pick up each box every day, and there's over 15 drop boxes, think about how much the cost savings would be, because those are paid staff that are going out and picking up drop boxes every day. You would completely get rid of that problem. You wouldn't have that problem. And then I would also trust it better because you wouldn't have that problem. I think that we could save a whole lot of money by returning to single day elections. And it's simple. It's a very simple concept. I don't know why it has to be so put into a blender up here, because we put a vote in, we request who we want to vote for based on who we agree with in the United States of America, and that should be all of our right. And whether somebody's going to come up here and threaten people for going to meetings or whatever, it's not going to stop us. It's not going to stop me ever from wanting a fair, clean election, because my grandkids deserve this. My grandkids matter. And I'm here to fight for them, and I will not stop. I am requesting, I think this is the best request that we've had so far. Single day elections. The Board of Supervisors has complete authority, and the people have authority over them. And your guys' recommendation on this is the most important one I've seen. If it can get back to them that we want free, fair, single-day elections, I mean, it would do a lot to making me trust in our elections. I mean, and I would show up to the polls that day. I would watch over them. I'd do my process, what I'm supposed to do as a community member, because we want to be informed if we're a community member. We want to know what's happening. We want to go to these meetings so that we're informed and so that we have an informed decision of which side we want to take when we're voting. I know what side I want, and I don't care what any side wants. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is that it's clean and fair and single day. That's what matters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for your service. I really appreciate it. So my comments are just very simple. I agree with what's already been said here by so many, and I support one-day election and limited absentee ballots. And as Dan so clearly articulated what that means, it should alleviate everyone's concerns about not being able to vote on election day. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
I certainly agree with the conclusion, number 1 on page 7, that Shasta County should return to limited absentee balloting and one-day elections, because limited absentee balloting would make an extended election period that lasts for weeks unnecessary. And so the only reason that window of time to vote has expanded to around 2 months is to make it easier to cheat. It's about as obvious as can be. Sure, we make accommodations for people that aren't going to be there on election day, but those things can be made and written into law once again. And most of us are old enough to remember one-day voting. Somehow we managed, and somehow most people were not disenfranchised by that. And those, what I'm referring to are the registered voters. People could have the opportunity to get absentee ballots, and that's what we're advocating here, but at limited scale, and just wholesale mail out the ballots and mail them back in for a period of 4 to 6 or 7 weeks is ridiculous. And so I urge this board to urge our board to do something about it and fix the problem here in Shasta County. Thank you.
So the suggestion of implementing one-day voting in Shasta County. While the intent behind the proposal may be rooted in tradition and a desire for civic unity, the reality is that such a policy is not only impractical, but also legally prohibited. Under the election code, voters are guaranteed free and fair access, equal access to the ballot. Implementing one-day voting would severely limit accessibility, particularly those who work long work hours, transportation issues, disabilities, or those who live in remote parts of the country. This would conflict with both state laws and the Federal Voting Rights Act, which prevents policies that disproportionately disenfranchise certain groups, including minorities, the elderly, and low-income voters. Simply put, California law, specifically sections 3026 through 3026 of the election code, allow for multiple ways to cast a vote, and one-day voting is not compatible with those provisions. We've also seen challenges to the election laws fail in courts, most notably the Election Integrity Project California versus Weber, a case that in that case, attempts to undermine California's voting practices were firmly rejected by the court, affirming the state's voting laws are constitutional and protect the rights of all citizens to vote. Any attempt to enact one-day voting in Shasta County would similarly fail and directly contradicts these established laws. Now, the commission can certainly make this suggestion, but the legal barriers are insurmountable. It's just not going to happen.
Last one here.
Okay, regarding R3, the polls are open from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. This is a common time frame that I understand. I think it's just what I know for Shasta County. That's ample time. I did it all my life. You just find time during the day. Businesses, employers have to give you that time. The extension, everyone's saying, well, you're voting 30 days ahead and after, we're losing chain of command. We also are not going to have sufficient or adequate people to observe for that vast amount of time before the election. Then you got election day, and then you got after the election. That's by design. It's far easier to cheat and do whatever else is fraudulent, and I don't understand what the problem is. Please ignore the people that are the core tantrum-throwing fit people. They're giving you empty threats. They're trying to intimidate. We all see it, and just obviously this is so common sense. Go to one day. Why do you think we have absentee ballots? It's for the people that want to go to their whatever, gym, a wedding, a trip. They're sick. That's what those are for, and they're valid and they count, but not just all over the place. And then you've got unaccountable boxes and crates. And we've heard every nightmare for the last few months about what happened in our ROV's office. So I hope Tom Toller, our new RV, can really do a lot more than just observe and see how it goes the first time. We already know the problems, and so I thank you so much for your volunteer time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to bring it back to the commission. I'd just like to note right off the bat that Commissioner Hansen's name is spelled incorrectly. It should be Sosen on this recommendation. So I'm just clarifying that right now. And I think the lady is gone who brought up the question of limited absentee balloting. This recommendation is a recommendation to return to limited absentee balloting, which is what we had in the past prior to vote by mail balloting. And so, it's for people with handicaps or severely ill or overseas military or people who physically can't participate in person. So it's just a return to that system whereby the only people that would get a so-called mail-in ballot would be those people who applied for an absentee ballot. Okay, that said, I'd like to bring it back to the commission. I'll start with you if you have any comments. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Garbett, I think you were first there on the list.
I see Mr. Lamour.
Okay. Right.
Madam Chair, so Madam Chair and I had conversations about this recommendation, but we can't have those with the entire commission, and so this is the first opportunity that we have for the entire commission. It would be my recommendation that this be taken at a different time and continued. The document as written is internally inconsistent, and as a legal matter wouldn't withstand a challenge. So if we could edit this, then I could recommend that the board adopt it, but I couldn't in its current format.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I echo that. First of all, I'd like to know who prepared this. Was it just the two people in the ad hoc committee?
Yes.
So, because it looked to me like maybe an attorney might have been involved in preparing this. No, okay. I just want to make sure. The attached documents, again, the Transparency Foundation is not transparent. It's a very biased, very, very biased organization. And then to also cite Caltech MIT Voting Technology Project from 2001, I mean, that is a very, very old report. And it was from 2001, not 2021, as it says in this packet. That report that you included in the attachment is from 2001. And the voting laws have changed substantially since 2001. So to give you a little history, I did a little research on absentee balloting. It was in 1978 was when the laws were changed and those section codes of 3000 through 3026 were added. Prior to 1978, the only people that could get an absentee ballot were people that, as you said, had medical reasons. They are in the military. They could prove that they were going to be out of town, out of state, out of country, etc. And if you look at how many people voted absentee in 1978, it was around 6%. When they changed the law in 1978 to allow anybody to either require temporary or permanent absentee ballot status, the number of people voting absentee continually went up. So it started at 6%, then it was 8 to 10%, then as the years went on, it got more and more. And prior to COVID, because a lot of people think that this was all, a lot of this was all a result of COVID, over 60% of Californians were voting absentee ballot in 2018. COVID came along, then that's when they decided to mail everybody a ballot for the first time. I believe it was in 2020 or 2021. And then the numbers shot up. And in Shasta County, in the March primary, 80% of Shasta County voters voted absentee, which means that only 20% went to the polling places to vote on election day. The statewide average for absentee voting is nearly 90%. So clearly, everybody likes absentee voting. There are states that entirely vote by mail. And, they do allow people to go to an election office and vote in person if they wish, but there are states that conduct all of their elections by mail. You can track your ballot. You're saying that you can, this chain of custody thing. I use ballot tracker. So I get a text telling me when my ballot has been mailed. I get a text when I return my ballot saying that it's been received. I get another text when it's been processed and counted. So there's no chain of custody issue. There is talk about nefarious actors. Well, let's just say that if somebody wanted to do something nefarious with an absentee ballot, they're going to be committing a felony. Who in their right mind wants to commit a felony to get one extra vote for their candidate? That's ridiculous. So basically what we're trying to do here with this R3 is we are trying to say that the 20% who go to a polling place on election day and vote, they're doing it right. And the 80% of the people in Shasta County that are voting absentee are doing it wrong. And so we basically want to make the 80% do what the 20% is doing. I am here to speak for the 80% of the people in this county that vote absentee. As far as them saying it'll be faster if it's all one-day election, I disagree with that. I believe that if you have weeks, if they're allowed to count and process the absentee ballots as they come in. So, by the time we get to election day, they've already counted 80% of the ballots. The only ones that have to count and process and signature verify are the people that show up on election day. If you make 100,000 or 111,000 people all vote on election day, those poll places that are, hardly anybody's there are going to be overwhelmed. People are going to be standing in long lines. People are just not going to vote. They're not going to take the time to vote. This is a classic voter suppression item.
Yes. Yes.
You'd have to have more polling places, more polling equipment. The cost of running the vote would be much higher. They talk about the budget shortfall of the state, as being another reason that we need to do this. They quoted $46.8 billion budgetary deficit June. Well, in late June that was updated. It's down to $27.6 billion, and since the California county budget is $455 billion, we only have a 6% shortfall. It's not that big of a deal. You have people that would have to take off work and stand in long lines. And we have a county where people do not believe in vaccines and do not believe in masks. They're anti-mask, anti-vaccine. And so what happens to the voter who wakes up on election day with a bad case of COVID? Are they going to force themselves to go to the polling place and crop dust the entire precinct with their COVID breath when they should be able to absentee vote if they so choose? I also take great exception, like other speakers have said, to this threat that's included. I can't believe that this has been reviewed by county council, because I don't think the county council would ever agree to this statement. It is recommended the board move on these recommendations as quickly as possible by whatever means necessary to prevent civil unrest. What is the definition of civil unrest? Are we talking violence?
Yep.
Are we talking, a peaceful protest? To me, this is a blackmail item. Yep. You're trying to blackmail the Board of Supervisors into doing something on this because if they don't, there's going to be civil unrest. I believe that this commission has already exposed this county to legal liability without one statement. This is out in the ethos now. We have this statement in this document that's public information, and it's basically saying that there's going to be civil unrest unless something happens. Let me make it clear to everybody, this commission has no jurisdiction to change voting laws.
That's right.
The Board of Supervisors has no jurisdiction to change voting laws.
That's true.
The ROV has no jurisdiction to change voting laws. I agree with the last recommendation, number 4. Find a politician, they say Democrat, find a Democrat legislature that is willing to carry a bill effectuating these changes to California law. That is how you do it. You change the law. You don't try to legislate at the county level. It is illegal, it's unconstitutional, it's unenforceable, as has been so many of the things that this commission has done, as well as the Board of Supervisors. So I think with the fact that this is now out there, that you have said that there's going to be civil unrest unless this is acted upon by this board, I suggest that you instead, first of all, table it as Mr. Lamore has recommended, because this language, I'm sure you disagree with this language, that there's going to be civil unrest. That is putting this whole county, if something happens on election day and somebody gets violent and somebody gets hurt.
You don't need to explain it again. I understand where.
You understand that they're going to sue the county.
Yeah, I understand.
Because of this statement that's in this document. Okay?
So
I have a few more things to say.
I'd like to interrupt for 1 second, because I want to address at least one thing that you said, Mr. Garbett. I take exception to your comment that we have done anything illegal up here. All we do here is make recommendations. We haven't done anything illegal. So I take exception to that. Okay.
The only thing that you've done that's illegal.
Proceed. This is just a recommendation. It is being brought to the commission
I
for
understand.
discussion and a vote.
I
We have not
understand.
voted anything. We have not sent anything to the Board of Supervisors.
But,
so please,
no.
please
But
continue.
because you put it out in the public record that there will be civil unrest if something is not done on this, regardless if it's voted for or down, up or down, doesn't matter. You've already set the stage.
That's because
you've already set the
that's
stage.
what we have. That's what the committee has heard from the public.
Well, like Mr. Gardner said, you need to
continue.
report those people to
I
the
understand.
sheriff.
I heard him.
You
Thank
need to report those people to the sheriff.
Understood.
If they're threatening violence,
Okay.
they need to be
Continue, please.
reported. Otherwise, you are going to be an accessory.
Continue, please.
Okay? So, this is not going anywhere. This should not go anywhere. This should go in a burn barrel. This is a ridiculous recommendation, and the only thing that you should do is try to find a legislator that is willing to carry this forward and change the law about absentee ballots and single-day voting. That is the one and only recommendation you should be making to the Board of Supervisors. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. I would like to, I know that you want to speak, Patty, but are you sure? Okay. I'm going to make a motion, and then I'm going to let Commissioner Plum have her say. So I want to make a motion that we approve this recommendation to the Board of Supervisors with the following changes. On the first page, that Hanson, Margaret Hanson, be spelled S-E-N, not S-O-N. And that under the recommendations, we take out from the very last sentence in the recommendations where it starts, are necessary in order to prevent civil unrest, and replace it with, by whatever means within your power or jurisdiction, whatever the commission thinks. And I would like to address, so this recommendation, it says The Shasta County Election Commission recommends the board use all authority within their jurisdiction to return to limited absentee balloting and one-day elections, including but not limited to creating an ordinance, proposing a charter amendment, and lobbying the California State Legislature for changes in the law. In doing so, it is recommended the board consult with highly qualified election attorneys. So number one, creating an ordinance and proposing a charter amendment are both within the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors. Whether or not such an ordinance or such a charter amendment would supersede state law, that is not this commission's problem. We are just making a recommendation. If they want to do what's the word here? Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. An ordinance or a proposed charter amendment. That's their choice. That's on them. They consult with attorneys on it. And we're not doing anything legal by recommending they use whatever is in their power. And it is within their power to create ordinances and propose charter amendments. That said, there's nothing wrong or illegal with this. County council has, we've had a conversation, as was mentioned, and, he recommends that we sit on it, change some language, primarily because chances are that any ordinance the Board of Supervisors or proposed charter amendment would create could not or would not supersede state law. But that's something for the board to talk with council on, to talk with outside attorneys on, or whatever they want to do on it. This is our recommendation to the board. It's not a legal document. It was not prepared by an attorney. So that's what that
Your
is.
attorney recommended you table it.
So do you have something to say? I did. I made a motion that we approve this with the change that we correct Commissioner Hansen's name and that we take out the very last part of the very last sentence under the recommendations, right after means, and replace it with within your power.
And I second that motion.
Okay, did you want to have any discussion?
Yes, I just wanted to affirm Mr. Garbutt in his statement, and I agree with the history here that we're dealing with and the changes that have occurred, not quickly, but over time. And so I do agree that in 1963, there were things put in place for absentee ballot. Also 1978, there was 6%. You're absolutely right. Those are the numbers that I can confirm as well. And what has happened over time with the absentee balloting is it has slowly evolved to mail-in ballots, and that happened personally for myself, my mother. There were times in the 70s that we went to the booth, and then she started having health conditions with her kidneys, and so she wanted to have absentee balloting consistently, and she did that. In 1996, we came for a visit, and I saw she had her ballot above the phone, and I said, "Mom, what's this?" She goes, "Oh, I get to mail it in now." And I just, at that time, knew that there was an issue, and I didn't understand everything I knew about things, but I knew that slowly this frog was being boiled. And here we are today with this broad ability to vote in many different methods. And we are asking to come back to baseline. We're asking the board to consider a recommendation to come back to a baseline that limits the ability, not the voter, but the ability to vote in various methods that break down the chain of custody, extend the period of election time to 2 months. All these factors whittle away at the authenticity of the voting opportunity. So with that, I just want to say that yes, absentee voting is very valuable. Limited absentee ballot is our proposal because it's so valuable. If it was broad and everyone could do it, it would not be as valuable. It's very important to have the privilege to use an absentee ballot. That's why it's limited. So with that, to come back to 1 day as our recommendation as well, and I just wanted to highlight with Mr. Welcome to the Commission, and what we're doing here is very important. Thank you.
I did want to speak to Mr. Garbutt's comment about 80% of the people are now voting absentee. That's a little bit twisted in that they're not absentee. They're not voting as absentee ballots. They didn't go in and apply for an absentee ballot. They are just sent one. So people take advantage of it because they're just sent it. So
Personal opinion.
they're not, when you said that people are essentially, you implied that people are essentially choosing, 80% of the population is essentially choosing to vote absentee. I question that. So that's, I just.
Can I clarify?
Sure.
So before everybody got mailed a ballot, which is a very recent thing.
Yeah.
People over 60% were already voting permanent absentee.
Right.
Meaning that they never ever wanted to go to a polling place.
Right.
They want to vote from the convenience of their own home.
Understood.
Then when COVID came along, that number obviously jumped
Right.
substantially.
So let me explain part of the problem with that is those people that chose to vote absentee and filled out an absentee request form, absentee ballot request form, there's a little bit more security in that process because those people chose to do that. They chose to fill out the application. They're getting their ballot theoretically to somebody that went through a process. When you've gotten vote by mail ballots, the other 40% is just mailed. I mean, those are just the people that vote. And only 50% of 49 point something or whatever it is, only, let's say 50% of the ballots came back. So if we sent out 100,000 ballots, only 50,000 of those came back. So those are 50,000 ballots out there that never came back.
Now you're talking about voter participation rate.
The point is I'm talking about loose ballots out there that any type of nefarious thing can happen
Well,
to.
again, those nefarious people that decide to vote a ballot that is not theirs are committing a felony.
And you think nefarious people care about whether they're committing felonies?
Well, they should.
Unsubstantiated allegations.
Okay. All right. Well, so any other, do you have something, Margaret?
Yes, please.
I thought we were tabling this.
Can I speak first, please? Or one of you guys? I don't know.
So my understanding currently, Madam Chair, is there is a motion on the table. I
And
don't
a second.
believe
Yep.
there was a second.
Yep.
So there's a motion on the table to send this recommendation to the Board of Supervisors.
I would like to have
And there
a
was a-
substitute motion, and that would be to
Well,
table it.
Okay, first of all, she is speaking. She was speaking. Okay. Go ahead. Ms.
Okay, with absentee ballots, my mother is 103 and a half years old. She walks in when she was able to vote personally. She would walk in and do her ballot. When she applied for an absentee ballot, it's because she had an accident and could not really function well. But she had to show her ID and she had to sign on the dotted line, so her signature had to be checked. When they changed these over from the COVID requirements of getting a mailed ballot, it was a little more involved than what you're talking about. So an absentee ballot has ID and signature. And so you have to prove who you are. She had to show her ID in order to get an absentee ballot. With a mail-in ballot, you don't have to prove who you are. And my daughter has gotten ballots that were not even hers in the mail. And she's looking at it going, who is this? And they're just arbitrarily mailed. And then she's also witnessed people stuffing the ballot boxes at the Anderson.
Unsubstantiated allegations.
Stuffing the ballot boxes at the Anderson City Hall. And she witnessed that, and so did her kids. So my take is I agree with the changes to the language. And also we need to be recommending to the Board of Supervisors to look into this also and do what they need to do. So there you are.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Garbutt, you wanted to make a substitute motion?
Yes, I would say that we should table this until county council can review it and edit it and revise it.
Okay, do we have a second on that? Okay, seeing no second, that doesn't pass, and we're back to the original motion. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, I just want to make a clear record that with the changes, I would still recommend that this be tabled, and I couldn't approve it in its current format.
Okay. All right, so any other comments? All right, Kristen, are you able to read back the change?
So Chair, I'll actually jump in there. So staff would look to the ad hoc committee who drafted this recommendation to make those changes.
Well,
send it to staff.
No, because we're approving it. It's just a.
Oh, I'm
few
sorry,
word
I
change.
misunderstood.
Yeah. Did you get that last change in the last sentence under the recommendation?
Chair, I apologize, I did not.
Okay, that's fine.
So we'll have to get it from the recording.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will state it again. So the original motion was to approve the recommendation for a return to limited absentee balloting and the return to
Chair.
one-day elections.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I feel like I've been interrupting you all day.
That's fine.
I have those changes handy if you prefer I go through them.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
As you started to say, an amendment on the first page to correct Commissioner Hansen's name,
Correct.
changing an A to an E, and take out the last part of the last sentence of the recommendation right after quote means and replace it with within your power.
Yeah, unless somebody has a better word that they'd like to choose. Within their power. Sure, within their power. I mean, that's, okay. So that was the original motion, and there was a second. No more discussion. Could we take a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Chair. Commissioner Plum?
Yes.
Commissioner Lund?
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson?
Yes.
Commissioner Garbutt?
No.
All right, motion carries, and we're going to move on to R4. Okay, consider assigning 2 or fewer commissioners to look into appointment of citizens, election judges, and draft recommendations for commission consideration to send to the Board of Supervisors at a later date. Do we have any public comment for R4? Okay. Yeah, Dan? Just got him. Sorry. And Dolores, you'll be up after him.
Thank you again, volunteer commissioners, for your service. I appreciate it. Mr. Garbutt, I got to commend you for your innocence. I really appreciate an innocent heart. But if you go be on this commission, I recommend you watch the news and get out of the ignorance of human nature. The thought that you don't think people are willing to cheat to vote is ignorant, and you need to really get that. So what I would like to talk about now, had to clarify things for you. Yeah. Is, number 4, you're going to look into this, and we've got an election coming up that is very important, and some of these people have referred to threats of violence on that election. If we're looking at this and we're going to say at a future date you're going to make recommendations, I think it's an excellent idea. The more citizen observers you get, the more faith you're going to have that the system is right. And so if you guys can expedite this and put dates in here of, if you're going to look into it, when you go look into it, when you go report back, when can you take action? Because everything, like you say, has to go to the Board of Supervisors, so there's all those delays. So I would recommend that you definitely start getting some citizen, I forgot what they call them, judges, and the more of those, the better. Because if everybody in this room, both sides of us, got involved and were able to observe, we'd all feel a lot better about the next day and what was taking place. So that's my recommendation and suggestion for you guys.
Thank you. Dolores?
Okay. It's very difficult to sit back there or stand back there to listen to all this. If you plan to appoint somebody for this election judges, please do not, I recommend, highly recommend, do not appoint Richard Guerrero, even though he's running, you know, or anybody who is socializing with Richard. He threatened Jessica, and he is running for Scully, Office of Education. He threatened her. That is, you cannot do that. It's prohibited. This has been going on behind the scenes, and nobody wants to talk about it. And this is your people. Richard Guerrero, he's one of your groups, and he's part of you guys. I'm letting you know, he threatened Jessica, basically reached out to her company and threatened her and to the company, saying that they need to reprimand her. And also when they do, that he demands for a letter to be sent to him. If not, he will go after the nonprofit organization. So I recommend that you be careful who you be appointing.
I don't think we'll be appointing anybody, just to let you know. This is just, we're going to research it, bring back a recommendation for the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, but I'm just saying that this has got to stop. It's mostly your people, because I am actually a Republican, but I am a Christian. But I don't say something and turn around and say something else. Be quiet. I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not a hypocrite. You are. You can't call yourself a godly person and turn around and say something else. When you get up here and you say the flag and the whole thing, American flag, and you salute. Okay, but I understand that, but I'm just saying, when you get up here and you say the salute, and you say American flag and all that, but you're saying Constitution, you say justice for all, but it's not for all. You guys are always picking somebody that you want to make sure they do your dirty work. And it's always your people. Because I've been around this side, and I can't stand this side because they're hypocrites. They threaten people. They tell you who to vote for. If you don't vote for the people they want you to, they tell you, well, you're not. They treat you like an outsider. You guys are the ones who are aggressive. If anything happens in the election, I'm actually running for city council in Scully. So anything happens in the election when the voting takes place, I'll tell you right now, there's going to be a lot of problems coming up. And you guys are going to be liable.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, please.
Mental health. God. Getting to R4, we absolutely do need as many eyes as possible on what's going on. You're only making, again, if people would understand, a recommendation. That's all. You're just making a suggestion. You're not naming names, so that slanderous kind of stuff shouldn't be. That was point of order right there. I don't know why what's name doesn't have that sign out. When you're asking us to call us your people, we're all Americans, hopefully. And I just want to say,
Again, could we just
the disruptions. It's hard to sit back there
understand.
all day.
Dolores,
all day.
can you please be quiet? Thank you. Lori, could you please?
I'm trying to address R4, that we need as many eyes and ears and all the rest. And to the new Commissioner Garbett, masks, wear them if you want. Do not say that the anti-vax and that we need to cloud spray. I'm stunned. 4 minutes, we have your soundbite. You're not doing well on your first meeting. Wearing masks. If you believe in masks, wear them. I'm just saying, but they're trying to make it sound like this is going to go bad if COVID or bird flu or monkeypox, whatever. Just saying. Thank you again for your volunteer time.
All right. Sir, can we try to stick to R4?
That's why I was making sure of thinking in my mind. Yeah, I don't have this, anyway, R4.
It has to do with the assigning 2 or fewer commissioners to look into appointment of election judges,
Okay.
citizen election.
Well, I went down and I'm explaining why I agree we need somebody. I went down and tried to vote, and I asked for a precinct ballot and they wouldn't give me one. So I'm there to vote. I've got my mail in and I want to use a precinct ballot. And the guy refused. This at the crossroads. Big guy, he refused to give me a ballot. So there's where you need someone to say, hey, on the premises, I don't know where this guy's going to be, but you need somebody to take over down there. Because you have people there, they, you know, ex-county worker or whatever, and he would not give me a ballot. So I was forced to use a mail-in ballot. I ripped up my envelope and said, this is all you got now. But he refused to let me have a precinct ballot. So he needs somebody to make decisions on that situation. It shouldn't have came to that, but you know, it's gonna happen again, and you know, you need somebody there to say, this is right or wrong. I mean, I should be able to went to somebody and say, hey, he's not gonna give me a ballot.
Yeah.
So that happens. I mean, hey, I was there.
Okay, thank you for letting us know that.
All right.
To the surprise of no one, I urge this board to move ahead with looking into the election judges. Government Code 25201 does provide that the board may do such things, and I think it's a great idea, mainly for the sake of transparency. The more eyes that are qualified to look at each and every aspect of the election process, the better. And it's not doesn't have to be one particular political party doing it, or one particular point of view doing it. We want as many people involved. We want true diversity when we have eyes on the election process, and this would help out. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else that wants to speak on R4, please line up over there, because if you don't, I'm going to end after Laura Hobbs here.
Okay, thank you. We need more civic involvement in our elections, and the more ordinary people doing elections work, the more transparent and the more trustworthy the results will be. I feel that to be a free society, we must be self-governed. There's no way around that, and self-governing people must manage the processes to record their collective decisions themselves. And the way that this happens is by all of the regular citizens, ordinary people, working together to come together, both sides, and decide the intent of the public. And you can look at it even down to a single ballot. I don't think any single ballot should be determined one way or the other without someone from both sides of the party agreeing upon the intent of that one voter on that one ballot. This is something that can and should be in the public domain of regular citizens. It shouldn't be handed over to elections officials to unilaterally decide themselves without oversight. So I support this R4. Thank you so much.
Come up, sir.
My name is Michael Michalak. I'm a recent nominee to fill that empty chair. I was very reluctant to say anything at all because I'm a new face right here. I spent the entire morning on a personal matter with attorneys and accountants involving a multi-million dollar sale. The advice I got from everyone was, listen to your attorney. Okay. As a matter of courtesy, I would ask that you listen to your attorney and table the motion until you have a full board, which I expect will be imminent.
We're already past that item, so we're on a different item right now.
I'm talking about this one, but
Yep. Council, do you have any issue with this item?
Madam Chair, I have nothing on this item.
Okay, thank you. All right, bring it back to the commission for discussion. Or a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to consider assigning 2 or fewer commissioners to look into the appointment of citizen election judges and draft recommendations for commission consideration to send to the Board of Supervisors at a later date.
Did you want to do that?
I would like to nominate myself to be a part of that ad hoc committee, yes.
Okay. Do you guys care if I join her, or do you want to join her? Do you want to join her? Did you want to join her?
I'd like to make a comment.
Okay. I'm asking.
I would like to join.
You would like to join in? Okay. All right. So, okay. Mr.
I would just, election judges, I think it's just another way to stick a thorn in the side of the ROV's office. They've lost a lot of employees, and a lot of it is because of all of this stuff that's going on where, their work is being questioned and they're being told that they're running fraudulent elections and that our elections are rife with all types of fraud. You're driving away good people, and now you want to put a couple of election judges looking over their shoulders. Again, I just think it's another way that's just going to, if you want Governor Newsom to come in and run our elections department, that's the direction we're headed.
That's right.
Because we've already lost a lot of really good employees in the elections office. Joanna recently said that they have a staff of 21 people and they've lost 8 people. That's a lot of experienced people. And I assume that some of those have been replaced, but you can't replace experience. And so, all of this stuff is just, if you want our elections to be free, fair, and trustworthy, we need to have competent, qualified, experienced people in the elections office running our election, because they are complicated. They are very, very complicated. And, I chose a profession where I'm self-employed. I don't like anybody telling me what to do. I don't like anybody looking over my shoulder. And that's been my entire life. I can't even imagine working under somebody. But for you to put 2 more people looking over the election staff, I just think it's a bad idea.
Alrighty. Any other comments?
I have one. In my conversations with Tom Toller, there are issues. This is not just a pipe dream. This right here, election judges, is to make sure that people are doing the right things. I have had experiences with different people who were what we call observers. So this is similar to that. And a lot of volunteers, a lot of people, nobody's interfering with their election process because they are allowed to look and observe. They should be able to ask questions. It's not to interrupt or interfere. They're not touching ballots and things like that. What they are doing is observing and making sure that the election process is smooth and continual, fair, open, and with integrity. Thank you.
Thank you. So seeing nothing else, you intended to make a motion, but you didn't really, you just sort of read that. So
You're right.
I'll go ahead and make the motion. I'd like to make a motion to create an ad hoc committee, or is that what we're going to call this one? Or okay, because we've got some under ad hoc and some under research and whatever. So, okay, I'm going to make a motion to create an ad hoc committee consisting of Commissioner Plum and Commissioner Hanson to research and look into the issue of citizens election judges and draft recommendations for commission consideration to send to the Board of Supervisors at a later date. Any second on that?
I'd like to second that motion.
Alrighty, could we take a roll call vote on that?
Certainly, Chair. Commissioner Plum?
Yes.
Commissioner Lund?
Yes.
Commissioner Hampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Garbutt?
No.
Alrighty, motion carries. Moving on to R5.